everyone, and welcome to another lesson here at English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Catherine, and today we have an elementary level lesson all about life with a roommate.
That's right. So sometimes during college, you have to live with a roommate because, living alone is too expensive.
Also, after college, I know that a lot of people who are just starting their jobs often live with a roommate to save some money.
That's right. Or maybe your girlfriend could be considered kind of like your romantic roommate.
I hope not in the sense of today's lesson. We're talking about problems with a roommate. So let's listen to this dialogue and we'll be back in a moment.
Charlie, do you have a second?
Yeah, what's up?
Well, I went and paid the bills today, and you still haven't given me your half.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. I agreed we would go halves on all the bills, but frankly, I think it's unfair.
Unfair? Why?
Well, you have long hair and use the hairdryer every morning. I don't. You leave your computer on all night downloading torrents. I don't. You see what I'm getting at here?
You leave the air conditioner on day and night. You also take 30-minute showers, which means you're using way more gas and water than me.
Well, while we're on the subject, stop bringing your friends over for drinks every weekend. You always leave a mess and keep me up all night.
Maybe you should just move out and find another place.
Maybe you should move out.
All right, we're back. So we have a couple of different words that we're going to take a look at now in language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
So the first word is a dreaded word. That means that most people don't like it. They fear it. This is bills.
That's right. You have to pay your bills. So a bill is the paper that tells you how much you have to pay.
That's right. So you can have a gas bill,
An electricity bill,
a cable bill.
or even at the restaurant, you ask for the bill.
All right, so this is the amount of money you need to pay.
That's right.
And usually at the end of the month, you receive many, many bills in the mail, and you have to pay the companies like the gas company and the electricity company.
That's right. So those are bills. Singular would be a bill. Okay.
And so this is how the argument starts. The two roommates decide that they have to pay the bills, but they don't want to split the bills in half, go halves. They have to pay their own. And
Right.
so one person says, listen, this isn't fair. You leave your computer on all night downloading torrents.
Okay. So we understand what it is to download something. You download this podcast, but a torrent, what is that? That's kind of technical.
That is. So a torrent is a kind of file that you can download from the internet. So basically, when you want to download a movie or some music from the internet, you go to a website that will connect you to someone who owns this movie or book or music, and they'll have a special file that's called a torrent file, and that's what you download.
That's right. So it's a new way of downloading files off the internet from many people, kind of like a peer sharing.
That's right. So when one person disappears or goes offline, it shares you with another person.
That's right. So those are torrents. And now, well, they kept arguing about you have to pay this, I have to pay that. So you said, you know what? You should just move out.
Ooh. So to move out, this is a phrase that has two words. To move out, it means to leave this house forever, this apartment. So that means to find a new place to live.
Right. So I can say, oh, I'm moving out this weekend. That means I'm changing apartments.
Right. Or my boyfriend just moved out.
Okay, so that
was
means
really sad.
he left your house. Okay, so that is to move out. And now we have a word that is more colloquial of how to say a house or an apartment.
This is place. Okay.
So you just say a place.
So place normally is a location. Okay. Where is this place? But we could say, hey, we're going to have dinner at my place. Would you like to come?
So that means we're going to have dinner at my house.
Right. My place.
My
his
place.
place.
His place. Or you have a really nice place.
Thanks.
Okay, so that means you have a really nice house.
Exactly.
Okay, so 4 keywords today. Why don't we listen to the dialogue again, and we'll be back in a little bit.
Charlie, do you have a second?
Yeah, what's up?
Well, I went and paid the bills today, and you still haven't given me your half.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. I agreed we would go halves on all the bills, but frankly, I think it's unfair.
Unfair? Why?
Well, you have long hair and use the hairdryer every morning. I don't. You leave your computer on all night downloading torrents. I don't. You see what I'm getting at here?
You leave the air conditioner on day and night. You also take 30-minute showers, which means you're using way more gas and water than me.
Well, while we're on the subject, stop bringing your friends over for drinks every weekend. You always leave a mess and keep me up all night.
Maybe you should just move out and find another place.
Maybe you should move out.
All right, we are back, and we've got some great phrases today coming up in Fluency Builders. Let's take a look at some of those.
Fluency Builder.
All right, so the first phrase that we have, very common, very, very common, but also very difficult for English learners to answer this question.
All right, what's up?
What's up? So if somebody says, what's up, what does that mean?
That means, what's going on? What's new? How are you? How is it going?
Okay.
Hi.
So how should you answer this?
Okay, so think of what's up as being a question about what's new, what's happening. You can say, what's up? Oh, not much.
Not much.
Okay, what's up means what's new? Oh, not much is new. Not much.
Everything is the same.
Or what's up? You could say, hey, hi, how are you? It's another way to say hi.
Okay.
But you can't say the sky.
Right. Or sometimes English learners will say, fine, thank you, because they think that what's up means how are you?
No, that's different. So you cannot say fine, thank you, fine, well. These are words about that answer how are you questions, but this isn't a how are you question.
Right.
This is a what's new question.
Yeah.
What's new or hi.
Okay. So somebody says, what's up? You can say not much, or you can say, hey, what's up? You can say, what's up back?
What's up? What's up with you?
Yeah, what's up with you? Okay, so that's our first phrase. Now, when the guy was talking about the hairdryer and the computer, he finished off that paragraph by saying, you see what I'm getting at here?
Okay, you're doing this. You use the hairdryer. You leave the computer on. Do you see what I'm getting at here? This phrase, do you see what I'm getting at?
It means, do you understand what I'm talking about? Do you see my point?
That means I haven't said exactly what I mean, but you should understand what I'm saying. So he's saying you're wasting electricity. You use all of these services more than I do.
Right.
And we could say, maybe Marco didn't get a good grade in his English test last week. And I say, listen, maybe it has to do with your study habits or how much you love video games or how little time you spend at school. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Okay, so you're not saying directly that I don't study. You're
Right.
just telling me the reasons maybe why as to why I'm not studying.
Right, like a hint.
Okay, so that's what you say when you don't tell somebody directly what the problem is. You say, you see what I'm getting at here?
Do you see what I'm getting at?
Okay.
Getting at means hinting.
Okay, and our last phrase, when they kept talking about the bills, one of the persons said, you are using way more gas and water than me. So what about this way more?
Way more. Way means much or a lot. So we could say, you are using a lot more water than I am. Or, you're using way more water.
Okay.
This is very spoken language. This is not written language, so don't write this down on your tests. But way more means a lot more, much more.
Okay, you can say Bob is way more attractive than Bill.
That's right. Or this is way more interesting than that show.
Okay, so you can say way more instead of much more or a lot more, but it's usually spoken English.
Exactly.
All right, let's listen to our dialogue for the last time, and we'll be back in a bit to talk a little bit more.
Charlie, do you have a second?
Yeah, what's up?
Well, I went and paid the bills today, and you still haven't given me your half.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. I agreed we would go halves on all the bills, but frankly, I think it's unfair.
Unfair? Why?
Well, you have long hair and use the hairdryer every morning. I don't. You leave your computer on all night downloading torrents. I don't. You see what I'm getting at here?
You leave the air conditioner on day and night. You also take 30-minute showers, which means you're using way more gas and water than me.
Well, while we're on the subject, stop bringing your friends over for drinks every weekend. You always leave a mess and keep me up all night.
Maybe you should just move out and find another place.
Maybe you should move out.
So, Marco, have you ever had any of these problems with a roommate?
I've actually stayed away from roommates because of issues like this.
You mean you have not had many roommates because you're afraid of this situation?
Yeah, I've always actually tried to live on my own by myself, like in a small apartment or studio, or if I have to have a roommate, maybe just like one, not like a house full of roommates, because I think the more people there are, the little bit more complicated it gets. And if it's just two, it's a little bit simpler.
This is true, although sometimes I think it depends on the people that you're sharing a house with. I've had one awkward experience where people did not want to pay ever.
Really?
And they were always late with their payments, and one situation where people were very good about it. So always remembered and were very helpful. So it really depends.
Yeah, I think it's hard to live with someone always, of course. Even, if you start living with your girlfriend or boyfriend or you get married, it's kind of different to live with someone, So, and especially money-wise, I think it always complicates things with people.
Definitely. So I think you're right, though. If there's 2 people, it's very easy to share the bills. But if there's 5 people or 6 people, it's very hard to find out who spent more money or what the rules are.
Yeah, so it can get a little bit complicated. But I'm sure a lot of our listeners have probably had roommates before, maybe in college, maybe even now. So let's hear those experiences and maybe those good and bad stories about living with other people.
So please get in touch with us. Our website is englishpod.com. There's lots of places for you to ask questions and to post your own experiences with roommates. We hope to see you there. And until next time. Bye everyone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we're talking about something that has always been very confusing for me.
For me as well. I don't understand very well what this is about. We're going to be talking about time zones and a little bit about daylight savings time.
Before we get started, though, let's take a look at this phrase in today's vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
All right, so the phrase is daylight savings time. Okay. So we're trying to save daylight, pretty much.
That's right. So this is the time of year when we change our clocks. What does that mean? That means in the fall, there's a special day, and everyone has it on their calendar, and we change the clocks. We put them back 1 hour. So if it was 8 o'clock, now it's 7 o'clock.
Okay, so everything is earlier, starts earlier.
Yes.
And that's basically to take advantage of the daylight, right? That's why it's called daylight savings time.
Exactly. And so that's for the winter. And then when the winter is past, we change the clocks again. We have the spring daylight savings where we change our clocks ahead.
Okay. So it sounds kind of complicated. Many countries don't have daylight savings time. They don't change their clocks at all. But we're going to be talking about this in a little bit more. So why don't we listen to our dialogue for the first time?
Did you set your clock forward for daylight savings time?
What? Why do we have to do that?
Well, at the start of the spring, we usually have more daylight in the mornings and less in the afternoon. This is basically due to our position on the planet and the rotation of the Earth. In any case, to take better advantage of the daylight available, we compensate by moving our clocks forward 1 hour.
I see. That's convenient. I never understood things like this, such as GMT. I never know what time zone we are in or when to change my clock.
That just stands for Greenwich Mean Time. Here in California, we're in Pacific Standard Time. That is 8 time zones west of Greenwich. Remember when we were in Beijing? Well, then we were in China Standard Time, and that's 8 time zones east of Greenwich.
That's why it was so weird traveling from Beijing to LA, because of the huge time difference. Even though we left Beijing at noon and flew for more than 8 hours, we still arrived in LA the same day at noon. It's like we went back in time.
All right, we're back. So that was a pretty clear explanation of why we do these things, but maybe there were a couple of words that you didn't understand, so let's take a look at those now in Language Takeaway.
Language takeaway.
Well, Marco, what you were hinting at before, this idea that we have shorter days in the winter and longer days in the summer, has to do with the rotation of the Earth. And so the rotation of the Earth is our first phrase.
Okay, so the Earth rotates. What does that mean if it rotates?
Means to spin around, but not just to spin around anywhere. It means that if you draw a line through the middle of something, it never leaves that line. It just kind of turns.
Okay, so it's spinning.
Like the wheels on a car. They rotate. That means they go around, but they are fixed
To the car.
to the car.
Right. So this is one of the reasons why we need to compensate our clocks because of the rotation of the Earth.
And that's our next word, to compensate. This is a verb, to compensate. And it's often used with money, but it can be used with time as well, time or sunlight. So with money, you'd say, I paid him $100, but I owed him $150, so I'm going to compensate him for the extra $50.
Okay.
Means I'm going to fix it.
Okay, so to compensate would be the verb, and compensation would be the noun. Now, in this case, we're talking about time, so how can we compensate time?
Well, that means that if we have lost an hour because we changed the clocks, we have to compensate. We have to try and gain that hour back. And so that's why in the spring, after the days start to get longer and longer, we have to compensate for that by changing the clocks again.
Okay, so we're compensating time. Now, related to daylight savings and this whole time thing is time zones. We have time zones all over the earth, and you've probably noticed this if you've traveled. You have to change your clocks, or many times you see in hotels what time it is in London, in Hong Kong, in Berlin, etc.
And this makes a lot of sense because, like we said, the Earth is rotating. And so if it's daylight in Moscow and it's nighttime in New York, obviously it's not the same time.
Right.
So to compensate for this difference, we have different time zones. And each time zone is pretty much an hour or so, and half an hour different from the next one.
Right. So most countries actually have different time zones throughout their country, unless they're small that they don't really need to compensate any change. Or, for example, China, just to unify everything. It's a big country, but they have one time zone, China Standard Time.
Exactly. But in the United States, we have 4 time zones.
Right. All right. So that's time zone. And now related to time zone is time difference.
Okay, well, think about math here. Difference is a word that we use in math. And a time difference is the amount of time. That means how many hours there are between one time zone and another time zone. So, for example, Beijing and New York City. These are very, very far away from each other. If it's day in New York, it's night in Beijing. So that means if it's 7 in the morning in Beijing, it's probably around 7 at night in New York.
So the time difference would be more or less 12 hours.
Exactly.
Wow.
But when it's daylight savings time, it's 13. So be careful.
Right. Okay. I think that's pretty clear. I think we should go back and listen to our dialogue again, and we'll be back soon with Fluency Builder.
Did you set your clock forward for daylight savings time?
What? Why do we have to do that?
Well, at the start of the spring, we usually have more daylight in the mornings and less in the afternoon. This is basically due to our position on the planet and the rotation of the Earth. In any case, to take better advantage of the daylight available, we compensate by moving our clocks forward 1 hour.
I see. That's convenient. I never understood things like this, such as GMT. I never know what time zone we are in or when to change my clock.
That just stands for Greenwich Mean Time. Here in California, we're in Pacific Standard Time. That is 8 time zones west of Greenwich. Remember when we were in Beijing? Well, then we were in China Standard Time, and that's 8 time zones east of Greenwich.
That's why it was so weird traveling from Beijing to LA, because of the huge time difference. Even though we left Beijing at noon and flew for more than 8 hours, we still arrived in LA the same day at noon. It's like we went back in time.
All right, we're back. So now let's take a look at 3 key phrases in Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
Oh, let's go back to the beginning of this dialogue. The person who's explaining all of these interesting things is saying that, well, in any case, to take better advantage of the daylight available, we compensate by moving our clocks forward 1 hour. So this is an important phrase. You could say to take better advantage of or to take advantage of. Let's talk about this. To
All right.
take advantage of something.
So to take advantage of something is to use it efficiently, right? Or to take better advantage. So for example, if you drive to work every day and your neighbor drives to work every day and you work at the same place, you could take better advantage of your car and the cost by sharing the same car to work.
Exactly. Or when people started to use computers, you could say, well, they were taking better advantage of their time by speeding things up, by making things faster with the computers.
Right. Or many mothers say, take better advantage of your time and read something instead of playing those video games.
Exactly. So it means, like you said, to be more efficient, to do useful or important things.
That's right. And now when we talked about what daylight savings time means or GMT, what that stands for, this is an interesting phrase. It stands for.
Well, think about it as a picture. So if something stands for something else, that means the original thing, it's not there anymore. And so in words and phrases like GMT, GMT doesn't mean anything by itself, but the G stands for something, the M it's an acronym.
Okay.
So this is an acronym that stands for, that represents 3 big long words.
Okay.
Greenwich Mean Time.
Right. So we use this a lot when we are defining words or when we are defining an acronym. Like GMT stands for Greenwich Mean Time, or for example, USA stands for United States of America.
Or we can even say someone's name stands for something. So, Marco, what does the M in your last name stand for? So you're Marco M. What does the M stand for?
Right. And then I would say, well, it stands for Mejia.
Your last name.
Right.
So you can use this when you see things that you don't understand, maybe an acronym or an abbreviation. Like, does Kathy stand for Catherine? Yes, Kathy stands for Catherine. It's a short version of Catherine.
Cool. All right. And well, now talking a little bit more about time, you've maybe seen the movie Back to the Future, and this is what it's all about, to go back in time.
To go back in time. So we went back in time. This is what the person says about the flight from Beijing to LA. What's interesting is that to go back in time is kind of a fixed phrase. We always say it like this. So we could say, if you went back in time, where would you go? What time? What place?
Right. So to go back in time, you usually use it like this. Now, what if I wanted to say to go into the future? Could you say go forward in time?
You could go forward in time, or you could go into the future.
Right, go into the future. So remember, if you want to talk about going back in time, is usually traveling to the past.
Exactly.
All right, so that's all the phrases we have. Why don't we listen to the dialogue for the very last time?
Did you set your clock forward for daylight savings time?
What? Why do we have to do that?
Well, at the start of the spring, we usually have more daylight in the mornings and less in the afternoon. This is basically due to our position on the planet and the rotation of the Earth. In any case, to take better advantage of the daylight available, we compensate by moving our clocks forward 1 hour.
I see. That's convenient. I never understood things like this, such as GMT. I never know what time zone we are in or when to change my clock.
That just stands for Greenwich Mean Time. Here in California, we're in Pacific Standard Time. That is 8 time zones west of Greenwich. Remember when we were in Beijing? Well, then we were in China Standard Time, and that's 8 time zones east of Greenwich.
That's why it was so weird traveling from Beijing to LA, because of the huge time difference. Even though we left Beijing at noon and flew for more than 8 hours, we still arrived in LA the same day at noon. It's like we went back in time.
All right, we're back. And now this is actually something that really does happen, right? If you take off in an airplane from Beijing, you fly for a certain amount of hours and you reach California and it's still the same time. You reach it in the same day.
It's very strange. The same thing happens to me when I go home. So I leave Shanghai and I arrive in Chicago and I arrive at the exact same time I left on the same day.
So it's like if time never passed.
No, it's the longest day of your entire life because it's not 24 hours. The flight is 14 hours. It's really 38 hours long, right? So it's really intense and exhausting.
And then what happens is when you do the opposite, you go from Chicago to Shanghai, then you go into the future pretty much, right? Because you left on a Sunday, but you arrive on a Tuesday.
Or in my case, you leave on a Sunday and you'd arrive on a Monday. And you lose half a day of your life.
Right.
You're just sitting there and all of a sudden it goes past you.
Right.
Yeah, so it all evens out in the end.
Right. So when you go back or when you come, it all evens out. You recover. You get those hours of your life back, pretty much.
They're not gone forever.
All right. So if you guys have any questions, any doubts, you can send us an email at englishpod@praxislanguage.com or come to our website, englishpod.com.
We hope to see you there. Ask away. And until next time, everyone.
Bye. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we have an elementary level lesson for you.
That's right. We are going to talk about winter, but specifically about the clothes you wear during winter when it's very, very cold outside.
That's right. And I hear you're not too familiar with some of these practices because where you come from, you don't really have winter.
We don't have winter. We have dry season and rainy season, but same temperature.
Well, Chicago definitely has a snowy season, so I'm very familiar with these things. So let's jump right into today's dialogue. We'll be hearing it one time, and in a minute, we'll be back to talk about it.
Bye, Mom.
Wait, Jimmy, it's cold outside. Put a hat on.
Okay, bye.
No, wait, you'll be too cold without mittens.
All right, see ya.
Hold on, with that wind, you're going to catch a cold. Wear this scarf.
Okay, see you after school.
Oh, and earmuffs. Put these on. Here we go.
Mom,
Yes, honey?
I can't breathe.
All right, we're back. So there were a couple of different items of clothing that we saw in this dialogue. So let's look at them now in language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
Okay, well, first of all, we have Mom and Jimmy. Jimmy is a boy's name. He's a little boy. And Mom is saying goodbye to him, but first she wants him to put on clothes. So the first item, the first thing she asks him to put on is a hat.
A hat. Now, you probably have seen like a baseball cap or many different types of hats. And sometimes in other languages, they have specific names for a hat for winter, right? But in English, it's a hat.
Anything that covers your head is a hat. That's
Okay.
kind of like the category.
So maybe this one is a warm wool hat, but in the end, it's a hat.
It's a hat.
Okay. So he's put on the hat. Now what else is he going to put on?
Well, we need to keep our fingers warm. Okay, so there are two kinds of ways to keep your fingers warm. And the way in this dialogue that the boy keeps his fingers warm is with mittens.
All right. So mittens you put on your hands. Now what's the difference between mittens and gloves?
Okay, gloves have special places for each finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on each hand.
Right.
And mittens, there's two spaces, one for your thumb and one for all your other fingers.
Okay.
Okay, so that means you can't really hold things.
So you kind of look like a penguin or something like that.
Yeah, you look like exactly, like a penguin. And it's mostly for children. Adults don't wear mittens because adults need to hold things like keys and
Right.
phones and car steering wheels. So in this case, mittens is usually for children.
Okay. So mittens, and well, the mother is still a little bit worried, so she tells him to wear a scarf.
Okay, a scarf is a long, usually made of wool, a long piece of fabric that you put around your neck to keep your neck warm.
Okay, so a scarf.
A scarf.
Okay, and he's put on the mittens, the scarf, the hat, and he's missing some ear muffs.
Okay, this is a little funny because usually if you're wearing a hat, you don't need earmuffs. But earmuffs are like headphones, but they keep your ears warm.
Right.
And we wear these, they don't cover your head, they just cover your ears. And usually they're just two round circles over your ears.
So as you say, exactly, they look like big earphones, and they keep your ears warm. Now, as you say, you usually don't wear this if you're wearing a hat because, well, you would put your ears inside your hat, right?
So it looks pretty silly if he's wearing all of this together.
All right. And so those 4 key items, those 4 key pieces of clothing are for our language takeaway today. Why don't we listen to this dialogue again, and we'll come back soon to talk about Fluency Builder.
Bye, Mom.
Wait, Jimmy, it's cold outside. Put a hat on.
Okay, bye.
No, wait, you'll be too cold without mittens.
All right, see ya.
Hold on, with that wind, you're going to catch a cold. Wear this scarf.
Okay, see you after school.
Oh, and earmuffs. Put these on. Here we go.
Mom,
Yes, honey?
I can't breathe.
All right, we're back. So now let's take a look at 4 key phrases on Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
Okay, this first phrase, as I said before, has to do with the mom and the boy saying goodbye to each other. So he says, all right, see ya.
See ya.
Ya.
Okay, so see as in to look to, right? You
Yeah.
see something. And what about ya? Ya. See ya.
Yeah. So this is a very spoken language way of saying you. So we could say, see you later. But if you want to make it shorter, you can say, see ya.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. Goodbye.
All right, so see ya. And then what's our next way of saying goodbye?
Hold on.
Oh, wait, that's...
We're not there yet. No. Hold on is our next phrase. And this is a way to say, wait.
Wait, hold on. So you just say hold on, it means wait. It's not really rude, right? It's just a little bit more casual.
Exactly. It's very casual. So you cannot say, hold. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
You have to use these 2 words together. Hold on.
on.
Like I said before with Marco, who wants to go fast, I could say, hold on.
Hold on.
Wait a second.
All right. Okay, so hold on, see ya. And now you gotta be careful because you're going to catch a cold. To catch a cold.
Okay, so a cold is when when you cough, you have a sore throat, it's starting to get cold outside and you don't feel well. Okay, so you have a runny nose. It's a illness. And most people get this every year. It's very common. But you don't get a cold, you catch a cold. Okay?
Okay.
So catch is the same word we use for when we talk about sports, like throwing and catching.
Okay.
It's almost like it just hits you. It's so fast. You just catch a cold.
So that's really important what you just said because you don't use the verb get. You don't get a cold. You catch a cold. Or if you say that you were sick last week because you had a cold, you would say, oh, I caught a cold or I had a cold.
Exactly. So remember, present tense, I catch a cold. Past tense, I caught a cold last week.
Okay. And our last phrase for Fluency Builder is here we go. Here we go.
Okay, so when do we hear this phrase? The mother says to the boy, put these on. Here we go. So she's doing something with him. She's helping him put his earmuffs on. And here we go is a way to say, okay, I've finished. Okay, I'm done. Okay, your earmuffs are on you now.
So you're ready. Here you go.
Here you go.
Right. So we say here we go, like everything is ready. Your earmuffs are on.
Exactly. So maybe I'm on my computer and I have a problem and I'm waiting. And you know when the bar is loading and finally, ding, it's ready. Here we go.
Here we go. It's
now
ready.
I can start. It's ready.
Or sometimes a waitress will come and serve you food and say, here we go. Here's your order.
Exactly. So this is a way to say what you've been waiting for is ready now.
Okay. Great. So I think it's time for us to listen to this dialogue one last time before we come back.
Here we go.
Bye, Mom.
Wait, Jimmy, it's cold outside. Put a hat on.
Okay, bye.
No, wait, you'll be too cold without mittens.
All right, see ya.
Hold on, with that wind, you're going to catch a cold. Wear this scarf.
Okay, see you after school.
Oh, and earmuffs. Put these on. Here we go.
Mom,
Yes, honey?
I can't breathe.
All right, we're back. So as you mentioned, in Chicago, it's very, very cold. So I imagine you had all of these winter clothes, right?
That's right. And it's funny because I remember being a small child and my mother doing this to me, putting on snow pants and boots and earmuffs and hats and gloves and scarves. And all of a sudden, it's so hot inside because you're wearing everything. And so you can't even walk. Like you were saying, you look like a penguin walking out the door. And then you get to school and you're sweating, right? And so in school, we had a special room and we had to take everything off because there's snow everywhere.
Right.
And snow can be very dangerous because it melts and it turns into water. Okay, so I have very strong memories of all of this, putting them on, taking them off, and just being warm all the time.
Well, yeah, when it's cold or you live in a place with cold weather, you have to have these items of clothing because otherwise you might catch a cold.
Exactly. So I hope that no one out there catches a cold, but if you want some suggestions, wear a scarf, cover your neck. That's the most important. Your head and your scarf are the most important.
All right. And if you guys have any other questions or comments, you can visit our website, englishpod.com, and we'll see everyone there.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Hand covering, separating thumb from fingers. Mitten. Stop. Wait. Hold on. A long, narrow piece of cloth worn around the neck. Scarf. A warm, tubular covering for the ears. Ear muff. Name you call someone you love. Honey. Head covering. Hat.
Let's try that faster.
Hand covering, separating thumb from fingers. Mitten. Name you call someone you love. Honey. A long, narrow piece of cloth worn around the neck. Scarf. Head covering. Hat. Stop. Wait. Hold on. A warm, tubular covering for the ears. Ear muff.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Mitten. For Christmas, his grandmother gave him a pair of mittens that she made herself. Mitten. I like mittens more than gloves because my fingers can keep each other warm. Mitten. My friend has a pair of mittens with snowflake designs on top. Hold on. Can you hold on a second while I tie my shoelaces? Hold on. Hold on. Are those cookie crumbs I see on your sweater? Hold on. Just hold on a minute. I just need to check my emails. Scarf. His scarf was so long that he could wrap it around his neck 3 times. Scarf. Some people wear scarves in the summer or indoors as a fashion accessory. Scarf. My mom wears silk scarves when she gets dressed up, and wool scarves when she needs to go out in the cold. Ear muff. When I was a child, I used to wear earmuffs all the time. But now that I'm a teenager, I don't wear them because they're not cool. Ear muff. I was in a store the other day, and they were selling rainbow earmuffs and leopard print earmuffs and all kinds of other neat designs. Ear muff. My best friend has a pair of earmuffs that he wears all the time.
Hello, English learners, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine, and today we're talking about money, but this time we're talking about borrowing money.
Right, so we're asking for money. We're going to the bank, and we are asking for a loan. But before we go, why don't we take a look at vocabulary preview?
Vocabulary preview.
Okay, so a loan is some money that you get from the bank, so we're talking about requesting a loan today.
All right, so you request for a loan or you ask for a loan.
Exactly, so to request is to ask.
Okay, very good. And that's the word that we have for vocabulary preview, so let's listen to the dialogue for the first time.
Hello, sir. May I help you?
Yes, I would like some information for requesting a loan.
Very well. Here are the general terms of our loan policies. We pride ourselves in having the lowest interest rate in the country for personal loans.
I see. So let me get this straight. If I borrow, let's say, $10,000, how much will I have to pay each month?
It depends on how long you take to pay it back. If we lend you $10,000 at an annual interest rate of 10% for 48 months, you would have to pay each month a portion of the loan, which is called the principal, and another small portion of the annual interest rate. This, of course, is considering that you don't default on a payment.
It sounds good, but there's just one problem. I have a terrible credit score.
That is a very serious problem, you see. The bank must assess your personal information, past loans, assets, and any other relevant information, such as your credit score, in order to approve your loan.
You know what? I don't really need the money. Thanks anyways.
All right, we're back. So now why don't we take a look at some of the key words that we'll find in language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
All right, so on language takeaway today, we have a couple of different words. Why don't we start off with the loan policies?
Okay, so a policy is like a rule. For example, a government can have policies, but in this case, a loan policy is the rules regarding the loan that you have.
Right, so maybe the loan policies could include how long, what's the maximum length of your loan, or maybe what's the annual interest rate, etc.
How much you have to pay each month,
Exactly.
like that. So a loan policy is the rules related to the loan that you've taken out. And we have some very, very important words following this. They go together. So the first word is to borrow.
Okay, so you probably know this word already, to borrow. So can I borrow your pen? Can I borrow some money?
Sure, let me give you my pen. Let me give you my money.
Okay.
But wait, giving is different because giving means I don't have to get it back.
Right. So if you want to give it to someone temporarily, then you lend them your pen or you lend them some money.
Great. So to borrow is to take something from someone knowing that you will have to give it back later.
Right.
And to lend is to give it to someone, right? So can you lend me your pen? That means, can you give it to me, please?
Right. And this is a common mistake with language learners, especially English learners, that they make the mistake of using borrow instead of lend. So, can you borrow me some money? Right. So, can you lend me some money?
Sure, but I expect you to pay me back later.
Okay, very good. And if I pay you back later, I'll include an interest rate.
Will you really?
No, not really.
No, not really. Mostly it's banks that ask for an interest rate. So in this case, an interest rate means the amount of money that a bank will charge you in addition to the money that you owe them.
Exactly. So it's called an interest rate, and it's a rate because it's a percentage. So
Like
it's usually
5%.
Exactly, 5-10%. That is an interest rate. And now moving on, if you have a loan and you have to pay each month, be careful to not default on your payments.
Okay, default. In the banking world, this means to not be able to pay your loan. So that means that if I owe $1,000 to you, Bank of Marco, and I don't have the money, I can't pay for it, then I default.
So to be late or to not make the payment.
It's a verb, to default.
Very good. And well, the person asking for the loan has a small problem. His credit score is not very good.
Okay, I think he calls it terrible. And one of the ways that you get a terrible credit score is by defaulting on a loan. But
Right.
it also means that maybe you borrow money or you have credit cards and you can't pay off your bills. And so a credit score is very important in America, and it's like a report card for your finances.
Right. So for example, if your credit score is a report card and you have an A credit score, that means that the banks won't have a problem with lending you money. Or if you want to buy a new car, it'll be okay. But if you don't pay your bills on time or you default on your loans, then maybe you'll have a C or a D, and then people will not really lend you money in the future.
They won't trust you.
Exactly. All right, so that's credit score. That's all the words we have for Fluency Builder. Why don't we listen to the dialogue again, and we'll be back shortly.
Hello, sir. May I help you?
Yes, I would like some information for requesting a loan.
Very well. Here are the general terms of our loan policies. We pride ourselves in having the lowest interest rate in the country for personal loans.
I see. So let me get this straight. If I borrow, let's say, $10,000, how much will I have to pay each month?
It depends on how long you take to pay it back. If we lend you $10,000 at an annual interest rate of 10% for 48 months, you would have to pay each month a portion of the loan, which is called the principal, and another small portion of the annual interest rate. This, of course, is considering that you don't default on a payment.
It sounds good, but there's just one problem. I have a terrible credit score.
That is a very serious problem, you see. The bank must assess your personal information, past loans, assets, and any other relevant information, such as your credit score, in order to approve your loan.
You know what? I don't really need the money. Thanks anyways.
All right, we're back. So now why don't we take a look at 3 key phrases on Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
Let me get this straight. We're going to do Fluency Builder?
That's right.
Wait. So, okay, so this is our first phrase. Let me get this straight. And this is a fixed phrase. That means we always say it the same way. Mm-hmm. Wait, let me get this straight. We always say it the same way?
Right, so you're asking for a confirmation or you're repeating what that person said just to be sure that it's correct.
Exactly. So maybe you don't understand something, or maybe you think you might have misunderstood. Mm-hmm. You say, hey, so let me get this straight. And you repeat what the person just said. Mm-hmm. It's a way for you to, like you say, get confirmation on what you've heard.
Very good. Let me get this straight. And now moving on, we have the phrase, pay it back. You have to pay it back.
Okay, and so in this case, we have the verb to pay, but we also have the word back. So pay it back means to repay. Mm-hmm. So if we take out a loan, we obviously have to pay it back to the bank.
Right, so you have to pay the loan back.
Okay, so just remember that these words often go together, to pay it back. I'll pay you back, I promise.
Right, can you lend me $1? I'll pay you back tomorrow.
Don't worry about it.
All right, and the bank started off saying, we pride ourselves in having the lowest interest rate in the country.
Yeah, right.
All right, so we pride ourselves. What does it mean if I pride myself in something?
The word pride means to be really happy about something that has to do with yourself. So something that you're proud of is something that you want to tell a lot of other people about. So for example, a father may say, my son just got straight A's and he's an excellent soccer player. And so he's proud of his son. But to pride oneself means to be really happy with the way that you do something.
Right. So for example, if I've never smoked, right? So I can say, I pride myself in being a non-smoker.
Or I could say, I pride myself in always saving lots of money for my paycheck.
Very good.
So it means I try to do this because I know it's a good thing.
But you feel very good about this and you feel that, people should be proud of you as well.
So we could ask our students here, what do you pride yourselves in as a challenge?
As a challenge for the website. All right, so why don't we listen to the dialogue for the last time and we'll be back.
Hello, sir. May I help you?
Yes, I would like some information for requesting a loan.
Very well. Here are the general terms of our loan policies. We pride ourselves in having the lowest interest rate in the country for personal loans.
I see. So let me get this straight. If I borrow, let's say, $10,000, how much will I have to pay each month?
It depends on how long you take to pay it back. If we lend you $10,000 at an annual interest rate of 10% for 48 months, you would have to pay each month a portion of the loan, which is called the principal, and another small portion of the annual interest rate. This, of course, is considering that you don't default on a payment.
It sounds good, but there's just one problem. I have a terrible credit score.
That is a very serious problem, you see. The bank must assess your personal information, past loans, assets, and any other relevant information, such as your credit score, in order to approve your loan.
You know what? I don't really need the money. Thanks anyways.
All right, very good. So as you say, saving is important. And well, sometimes do you think you need a loan?
I think sometimes people need loans because they want to go into business, for example. So people who want to go into small businesses or open their own companies need startup capital. And so this is a really great example of when people don't have the money lying around and will go to find a bank that will give them a loan.
So yeah, I think it's really important, especially for the economy of a country, for business loans or small business loans to be available, because sometimes it's very difficult to find a bank that will actually lend a person money to start a business. Usually they won't have a problem with lending them money to buy a new car.
Right.
But to start up a business, it's completely the opposite.
It is. And one of the really popular trends in foreign investment right now is called micro-lending. So microloans. And that means that if I want to help people in a very poor country, I can lend $100 for someone to buy a sewing machine or for someone to buy a small computer $500 for a small computer, and that is a microloan. It's a very, very small loan for one thing, and that can help them towards their goal of being a business person.
Right, and you're not really getting money out of it, though. You're not charging like 100% interest rate.
You're not. You're charging like 1 or 2% interest, very low interest, and you're giving people a chance to pay the money back because it's such a small amount.
Wow, that's really good. A really positive thing. Very good. So if you have any questions, any comments, or any suggestions, please come to our website at englishpod.com, and we'll see you guys there.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Percentage of the money paid to you by the bank. Interest rate. Common rules listed in an agreement. General terms. Measure. Calculate. Credit score.
Let's try that faster.
Measure. Calculate. Common rules listed in an agreement. General terms. Credit score. Percentage of the money paid to you by the bank. Interest rate.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Calculate. I have calculated the interest rate, and things are starting to look better. Calculate. Give me a moment to calculate your salary for this month. Calculate. Someone at work miscalculated my salary, and now I have to wait for another month to get paid. Credit score. I have a perfect credit score. There is no way I'm not getting this loan. Credit score. I forgot to pay my credit card bill, and now my credit score is compromised. Credit score. I really hope this doesn't ruin my credit score. Interest rate. This interest rate is insane. Interest rate. I wish I could get a loan with a lower interest rate. Interest rate. The bank's interest rate is lower than it used to be last month. General terms. I can help you understand this topic in general terms. I'm not so familiar with the details. General terms. In general terms, your behavior must improve, or else we will have to let you go. General terms. He explained some complicated science, but only in general terms. I forgot to read the fine print, and now I'm in trouble. Please make sure you read the fine print before you sign any document. I just read something in the fine print I don't completely understand. Can you explain?